Hey everyone, I'm Scott. Welcome to another Cooking Connection virtual cooking class here at H-E-B. We want to thank you guys for showing up. We've got a great menu, full class, so many things going on, so many things to teach, so many things for you guys to learn tonight. It is more of a date night or kind of that romantic dinner date night kind of menu. It's really a special occasion for whatever special occasion you may have, whether that's the holiday right around the corner, which would be Valentine's Day, or if it's just a celebration of a birthday, promotion, raise, whatever it may be. It's a great menu anytime. Want to also introduce, obviously, Charlotte Samuel, always. My second here, always to moderate. Always the security blanket that's always laying over, hot or cold day, just there, always hanging out.
Thanks,
Appreciate
homie.
you being here. We want to introduce another special guest in just a second. I want to take you to the menu first because my friend who's here is going to talk through some great pairings to go with our menu tonight. So with any romantic dinner or any kind of special occasion, of course you have to have something to drink with the food you're going to make. And so we're going to introduce Hunter Barton, one of our wine stewards from SA48. I know what SA48, but it's the Bulverde H-E-B right here in San Antonio. So before we do that, we want to talk about the menu. So we're going to begin with the end in mind. I'm going to show you guys a fantastic, easy recipe to do. It's our silky chocolate fondue. Recipe's right. I think you can see it right here. Is it right here? Is it right here? There it is. Silky chocolate fondue. The reason why it's silky, it uses a lot of butter. It's really simple, and it uses our little $9 crock pot that is a fantastic thing to just have on hand at any time because it's great for the queso. If you missed last week, so you can go back and rewatch Charlotte making the big game queso, which is a great one. We also have a fantastic buttered lobster rice. So any special occasion, we kind of think of surf and turf. So we're going to do a little variation of the surf and turf and make a really fantastic buttery lobster rice. And Hunter's going to pair wines with each one of these courses. And to finish it all off, we're going to do our pan-roasted filet mignon with a little smoked salt and thyme butter. It's really, really simple. We're going to use cast iron. It's going to be fantastic. And I'll show you one of our, another great thing that's very seasonal that we have at H-E-B Meat Market. But before we do that, I'm going to let Hunter come up here, talk about some of the wines, and then we'll get cooking. But he's a great wealth of knowledge. He's a wine expert. So Hunter, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming, hanging out with us.
Hi, Scott. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Chef Scott, Charlotte, and the entire team here for inviting me out, and I'm super excited to be here. So like Scott said, I am at Bulverde Road in 1604 H-E-B. We have a great barbecue restaurant, beer on draft, so definitely come out and see us, see me. But getting back to our little date night here, we're going to be pairing some fantastic wines with the chocolate fondue. We're going to be doing a lovely Moscato owned by a local family here in San Antonio, so that's always great, but the wine will be coming from Italy. After that, with the lobster rice, we're going to be pairing a beautiful Napa Valley Blanc de Blanc, and I know Charlotte, this is one of her favorites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sparkling, right?
Yes.
Anything sparkling.
Sparkling, and I agree with Charlotte. I love my bubbles.
Yes.
After that, to go with the steak, we're going to be doing the Lodi Cabernet. This is going to be a fantastic thing to pair perfectly. And then to kind of like go throughout the whole entire meal, we have a lovely rosé sangria, also out of Spain, just to kind of sip on as you're preparing stuff, or you can jump around, have some champagne, or open that red and get it breathing.
So I want to brag on Hunter for a second because and Charlotte knows this because she has, if you have not made best friends with your local H-E-B Wine Steward, you need to, because I realize that there's so much more in store than just what they have on the shelves, right? Like, so you can.
Correct.
We have, I don't think people realize how much H-E-B, like the relationships we have worldwide with vineyards, vintners, everything, and then all the stuff, the ability that wine stewards have to find those hard to find items. So just because you don't see it on the shelf, we talk about it, he's done me a solid and found me some really cool stuff. So I always appreciate that. So Hunter's my
and
guy.
I feel like people don't really understand like what wine stewards do. So our main job, of course, is overseeing the day-to-day operations on the store side, you know, all the buying and then the selling to our lovely clients and customers. But we do handle those personal orders like I have for Chef Scott before. But other than that, our main focus is, of course, making a unique My H-E-B experience, because each H-E-B is tailored to the neighborhood it surrounds, and we cater to that. So each wine manager will cater to that community it serves. So if we approach you in the department asking you if you need help with anything, don't look like a deer in the headlights and be all anxious. Like, we're here to help you, and we love helping people And we just want to be a part of that moment, that memory, or celebration. So
celebration, let's get back to that. I
Yeah.
always feel like bubbles are very celebratory, and this meal feels very celebratory to me. So
It is
I'm
a
gonna-
celebration of all three of us, Charlotte.
There we go.
And everybody.
Okay, but I have
Yes.
to ask you, Hunter. So you gave us 5 great wines. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I only wanted to get one bottle for the evening, which
course.
one do you think I should pick?
So I'm gonna have to go with your classic favorite, the Mom Napa Blanc de Blanc. I think it's gonna pair it with everything perfectly. The lobster, the steak, the shishito peppers, and dessert.
And then really quickly, Blanc de Blanc means
Blanc de Blanc is literally translated to white of white. So this wine coming from Napa Valley will be made from Chardonnay and Pinot Gris.
okay.
Yeah, so it's just a beautiful bottle of wine. And a fun fact about like Champagne in France, they actually use Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier. Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier are actually red grapes. But how do you get red grapes with white wine?
Yeah.
You know, all that color, which you'll see in the Lodi cab, that color is coming from the skins, the stems, the oak barrel. So the Blanc de Blanc is 100% white fleshed grapes on the outside, and they're not using any of that stem, oak, or nothing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
good,
learned
great.
something new.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyways, well, I'm getting pretty hungry, so I think it's time for Scott to get over here and get this meal going. Thank you,
Done.
Scott. Yeah.
Thanks, Hunter.
Hunter
Thank
will
you.
be in the chat the entire time. So, and I do not say wine expert lightly. He is a wine expert. I think between him and Charlotte, you basically have a huge wealth of knowledge. So now's the time. Ask them your questions, pick their brains, just say, hey, I've always wanted to know about blah, throw it in there. Hunter will be happy to add, answer your questions or whatever it is. We have a lot of stuff going on. So Hunter, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We appreciate everything you do at a store level, and especially what you've done for me in the past. Always awesome. We're gonna get started. So chocolate fondue. So if you've never made chocolate fondue, it's just like, I'm gonna take you back, or you can always go to the YouTube channel or H-E-B YouTube channel, go watch the big game. Charlotte made on the skillet, she made a little queso, right? Similar thing, kind of like fondue, basically the same exact melting of cheese, adding some stuff, aromatics, whatever it is, and making this beautiful silky sauce. So we're doing the same exact thing, but with our dessert, because it feels like to me, if you're gonna do something special and have a special occasion, you should have something with chocolate or something melted or just something decadent, and even be able to sneak in an Oreo or potato chip in that dessert, which is exactly what we're gonna do. So I have, and I'm not even kidding you when I say this, this is I think it's $9.97 at H-E-B. The cents I may be off on by like 2 or 3, but it literally is like a $10 crock pot. It is fantastic. It has 3 settings, actually 4 settings if you count off. It's a really simple, just ceramic bowl. It's perfect for like small amounts of stuff. Queso, chocolate fondue. Now, if you have one of those, your grandma gave you one of those 62-quart old crock pots, you can do that. You're gonna need a lot more chocolate to do that. I encourage that if you're gonna do it's a special occasion, hey, go for it. For our little chef style crock pot, all I'm gonna do is keep it on the warm setting. It doesn't go to high, it doesn't go to low. We're gonna, because the butter and the chocolate will melt almost at room temperature. So we wanna make sure it'll just stay nice and warm, it'll melt, it'll be silky. There's 3 ingredients. There's chocolate, there's butter, and what you have to add to chocolate and butter is sea salt. So I'm just using chocolate chips. If you have a really expensive chocolate or shaved chocolate, if you want to do that, you can absolutely do that. I'm going to keep it really simple. So I'm going to use a blend in my chocolate. I'm going to explain why. So I have about 12 ounces of butter here. That's what 12 ounces of butter looks like. And I have about 4 cups of chocolate chips. So for me, I think the best chocolate fondue is one that has strikes the right balance. So if you have a pure like semi-sweet or dark chocolate, you're gonna have a lot of those bitter notes. Now, yes, we're gonna add a lot of butter to that to make it really silky and creamy. However, you don't want it too bitter because depending on what you're gonna dip into it or use, you don't want it to overshadow what it is. So I like to cut the mixture with milk chocolate and semi-sweet chocolate. Now, if you're not a fan of milk chocolate, totally fine. You can always use like use 3 cups of semi-sweet, 1 cup of milk, however you wanna do it. I like the blend and it's really good, so I would encourage you to try it this way. I'm gonna dump the butter in. So the great thing about this is number 1, it uses a lot of butter. And number 2,
It has chocolate.
it has chocolate in it. So that's the real easy thing. So I'm gonna throw the chocolate in there. That's the recipe, there you go. And you could walk away right now and it'd be fine, but I wanna encourage you, we have to add salt to this. Reason being, not just because I like to add salt to things, but because whenever you have a semi-sweet or any kind of chocolate, you always want to add, if you're baking or just using it or melting it, sea salt. A little bit of sea salt really helps it. Now, you've heard me talk about salt. I want to talk a little bit about salt tonight as well. But the kosher salt's fine, but I think sea salt's a little finer grind. You don't need much. I'm talking like quarter, half a teaspoon max, depending on how much you have in there. You just want to bring out all that beautiful richness in this chocolate. So I'm going to add a little pinch of salt here. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to let this go. I said a pinch. I'm adding a little more just because. All right, lid's going to go on. It's on the warm setting, and that's it. Throughout the night, Charlotte, you're going to remind me?
Of course.
Check the fondue. So the good thing is
the
it's not
fondue.
going to burn. It's just going to sit there warming and slowly melt. But I just want to make sure I kind of fold everything together. All right, so that is going. I'm going to talk about my lovely charcuterie board that Charlotte built for me over here because I'm not the right skill level to build that kind of charcuterie board.
We all have
so we're-
different talents,
Yes,
Scott.
we
But
do.
quickly, we have a quick question.
Yes, ask.
Two folks asked this question. So Connie and Ruby, if you were going to add salted butter, would you still want to add that salt? Those are great questions.
No, great question, and I would say no. I prefer to use unsalted butter simply for the fact that in cooking, and this just comes from restaurants and years of cooking, you always want to be able to control the amount of salt you have. And so if I add too much if there's too much unsalted butter, I don't know what 12 ounces with this amount of chocolate of unsalted butter would taste like. It may be, is it half a teaspoon? Is it a full teaspoon of salt? I don't know what that looks like. So the best way I like to do is just use unsalted butter, and that way you can control the salt better. That way, if you have people that are salt sensitive, you can go, hey, I'm just gonna add unsalted and do it. You can absolutely use salted butter. I would say go for it because I love this with a little more salt is not gonna suck by any means, I promise you.
So then you would just maybe be aware of how much
little-
extra salt you add.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So maybe if you're gonna add 12 ounces of butter, which is 3 sticks, 4 ounces apiece, you could maybe add 2 sticks of salted, 1 unsalted. Maybe you try that out. Again, I don't know what that would taste like because every butter is a little bit different. I am gonna use this all night tonight. You're gonna see me using this. It's our Central Market European butter. I like that higher amount of butter fat. Now we talked about this earlier. Charlotte and I, we do a rehearsal because this is a live class. I can cut my finger off. It's all live. Just whatever happens, happens. That's what we're going to go. We roll with it. But in a lot of baking, a lot of pastry chefs don't like to use a European butter because there's different levels of moisture and water content in the butter. There's different levels of fat. And so depending on what they may be making or what you may be making, European butter may not always be the best thing. But in these things that I'm going to make for you, it's perfect. So if you don't want to use European butter, you can't. Yes, ma'am.
Just for a note, so European butter is different from regular American USDA butter by.
Yes.
So it has extra fat.
There's more. Yes, there's more fat. Some of them are also like Kerrygold butter, and some of these like really good, like Wuthridge out of
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah. So
Yeah.
Wisconsin, like there's some that they're churned a little bit differently. They have a lot of butter tastes different based on what the cows are eating. There's a lot of that, like the Kerrygold's always like the grass they graze on makes a difference in the butter, makes a difference in the color of the butter.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different effects. I just happen to know butters that are really good that we sell. Plugra, amazing. Kerrygold, amazing. Central Market, good. Even our H-E-B Organics is fantastic, but these are those ones the last tray I labeled, the Plugra,
Yeah.
the Kerrygold, and the European. They definitely have a higher amount of fat to them, so they're just a little more rich. And in steak and in lobster and all that stuff, you just want a little more. Look, it's date night. It's a special occasion. We're just going to do it. So that's how we're going to do it. All right, let me start with the lobster. So if you're cooking along with me, fantastic. Let's go. So we're going to do, so you can go ahead and I'm going to cook, so the steak we're using is a filet mignon. I have to show you this too because this is fantastic. So in talking about our meat market friends, we are using a filet mignon steak. I cut into little, individual steaks, which is great. But if you happen to walk into, you come in home and you're like, and your wife's like, or your husband or your significant other, whoever it is like, oh, you got chocolates. And you're like, oh no, it's a heart-shaped ribeye. Bam, look at that. This comes in a heart-shaped container. It is a heart-shaped ribeye. It is available only during the Valentine's Day season, which is what we also want to celebrate. I don't want to cook this much of the ribeye, and it's so pretty in the packaging. I just want to leave it to show. I'll just have to kind of walk back and forth showing the heart-shaped ribeye in the candy apple red heart package. It's super awesome. All right, so that's that. We are going to use filet. Again, if filet is not your choice or you want to do something else, you can always use a New York strip. I know Charlotte's is New York strip. Ribeye is obviously a Texas favorite, so any one of those will work. Okay, so our mise for our lobster. I'm going to throw this out here. So I have lobster tails. Now, once upon a time, Charlotte and I were at a shoot, and it was a live shoot that we were taping, and they wanted us to do lobster, and so I had live lobster. So naturally, when you have live lobster, you have to dispatch the lobster in order to cook to make the recipe we were doing. And so I had these big lobster, and so they were like, "How are you going to do it?" I was like, "Well, I'll just here's what I'll do. I'll cut it, and then we'll throw it on the grill." It was a grilled lobster, and so we started going, and I grabbed the lobster, and it was doing its thing, and I put the knife right behind the head, which is where you do it in a live lobster to kill it, and I chopped it. I turned it over, chopped it right in half, and I threw it on the grill, and it was still doing the dance, and I think Charlotte ran probably 100 yards away trying to get away from the lobster that she thought was going to come back to life. So in lieu of giving her PTSD,
thank you.
We went with and it's actually much, much better for this occasion because you don't have to spend entire lobster. Because I know that if you were to bring home a full lobster, it can be very intimidating, and you're like, and what if you have if you got kids or the spouse, the other is like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with that lobster? It could cause some anxiety from some folks in your house. So the best way to do it is these are we sell right now most H-E-B seafood departments a little 4 to 5 ounce lobster tail or 6 to 7 ounce lobster tail. They're really simple. It is ready to go. There is no killing. It is already done. The tail is ready to go. And all I'm going to do is take from our sky cam here. If you can see it, is it on? Our sky cam on. All right, here we go. Take the knife right in the center of your lobster. Be very, very careful. Make sure this is where you want a sharp knife because this is a shell, and a dull knife could slip off and I could cut myself, and you don't want that. So you want to have a sharp knife, and you want to press down first with the tip on the board, and then just straight. I don't know why that is so eerily satisfying, but there's something about
the crunching,
the crunch of the lobster, and just straight in half. And then from here, all I'm going to do is take some of the lobster meat out, just peel it out of the tail. Very easy to do. Sometimes it gets stuck, but you have to persuade it out here. So Hunter, what would I be? So you're going to keep the shells, and I'm just going to give this, because it's going in rice, so you can give it kind of a rough chop. That's all you really need to do. For these is all I'm going to do.
Okay.
I've already got a couple done. What are you thinking?
So, I mean, I think you were alluding to which wine do we pair with the lobster?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we did have a question from Brandy about the overall wine, and it's exactly the one I'm talking about right now, the one that you can have with every dish. Yeah, so it's going to be the Mum Napa Blanc de Blanc, especially well with this lobster because you're doing that rich, buttery, and it's going to be great with that seafood. And Mum Napa, the Blanc de Blanc, it has just a beautiful, zesty citrus note and just the perfect balance of bubbles. And then I did have another pairing question from Kim. Kim was asking, this same wine does pair with lobster and steak, and I 100%, I think Charlotte will agree with me, I think champagne pairs with everything. Popcorn, mimosas, in the morning with bacon.
So why is that? Why does that pair better? Why does bubbles pair better with?
Because it has such a nice level of acidity on the palate that it can just break apart the food, anything on the palate.
And it cleanses the bubble just sort of cleanses the palate. But also I like champagne, so I will drink champagne or bubbles with anything, right? So would you say if you only like reds, or if you're a big Cab fan, you could drink Cab with anything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you like?
You could.
So if you
appetizer.
Exactly, just drink whatever you like with the food you're preparing. But we're just here to help you pair and have a different experience.
They enhance each other.
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to start on that. You guys are
like Valentine's Day.
You guys are simpatico on that. I like that. All right, so we're going to start on the aromatics for the rice. Obviously, a couple classes ago, we talked about making rice. We made farro with one of our dietitians. We talked about all the grains, and we toasted it. We're going to do the same kind of thing to our rice here as we're going to toast it. So the rice I'm going to use is actually really, really good. Now, this is not sold in all stores. I love basmati rice. You can absolutely use just a long grain. You can use a jasmine. This is a really, really nice rice. So it's an aged rice from the Punjab region of India, which is really close to the Himalayas. It's not very far. It's a really close area. Northern India, it's great rice growing region, and it's just a really, really beautiful rice. It's a little darker in color when you notice it from a regular basmati if you were to pair them up. But it's just really, I don't know what it is about the aromatic basmati. It's just really good.
It has a really nice, nutty flavor.
It's my go-to rice because I love the way it separates better, I think, than a lot of rices, and I feel like it's a little more forgiving when you cook it. So if you haven't taken advantage, so we talked about mirepoix. We've done mirepoix. If you haven't seen it, you can go back to the YouTube channel, check out the steakhouse, do a little mirepoix salt. So I'm using the same vegetables. All I want in this is a little carrot, celery, and onion foundation. That has all of this. So I have it already diced up. I'm going to add a little garlic here. So I got about 3 cloves of garlic. I'm not gonna fake cut myself because I know that upset some people, as I heard last time. I was just trying to, keep you on your toes, but I won't.
People really care about you, and they want to make sure that your fingertips,
I'm gonna
the person stays intact.
Well, and I don't want to be the boy that cried wolf. Then I really will cut myself, and you think I'm joking, and then you'll see me trailing blood everywhere, being like, "It's fine, it's fine." I don't want to be that guy. All right, a real quick mince on our garlic here. You don't have to go too fine if you want to. If you wanted to take your garlic a little finer than this, what you can always do, and I'll do it from the top camera here, you can take your knife and you can kind of mash it. So you can kind of mash it down a little bit. Like once you get it chopped, you can kind of start mashing it down. Just be really careful if you got a sharp knife. It can be very, very dangerous. So you can kind of mash it. That's going to get more of those essential oils out. I'm going to add this right to the mirepoix.
Hey, quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Rachel Hurley asked if the rice was found at Central Market.
No, we found it at H-E-B. So that's specific to our cooking connections. However, we also sell this, which I also got a bag of. Just the H-E-B Organics Basmati rice. Now, at Central Market, if you have a Central Market near you, they do carry aromatic rices. You'll be able to find a basmati very similar to this or even this one, so you'll be able to find it. But yeah, if you can't, this organic basmati is fantastic as well. Any of the basmati rice is great. Even if you can't, long grain rice is totally fine. Okay. I just happen to feel like the basmati just cooks better, so that's what we like to use. All right, this is gonna go down here. All right, it's aromatic, so I'm gonna light up my pan here. So, now we're on the stove cam. All right, so I have all these fantastic kitchen and table pots and pans. I want to show you before I start putting hot liquid in there and burn myself. These are fantastic. These are our nonstick. So I actually prefer to cook the rice in a pot like this that has a nonstick surface. Reason being is if you like that little crispy kind of undercoating on the rice, it's easier to do it in a nonstick than it would be in a stainless steel because you could burn it pretty quickly. So I like to do this in here. A little bit of oil, just a little bit of olive oil. Recipe calls for grapeseed oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, doesn't matter. For those that, when I talk about olive oil, most people think that olive oil burns at a very low temp. Not true. All olive oils are different. Every single olive oil can be different. Olives have different smoke points, and so if there's a blended olive oil, they may not all be topping out at 325, and they say, hey, don't fry in olive oil. I cook pretty high heat most olive oils. If you notice it's smoking earlier, that may just be not as tolerant, so just kind of go from there. But I happen to know for a fact that Tavio does really, really well. It's a nice blend of olives. It's got a little bit of green grass and spice in there. Green grass and spice.
Listen to
Look at that. See? That's like a wine term, right?
It's exactly a wine term.
Kind of, sort of. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of butter to this. Not a lot of my butter. I'm just going to add a little bit. I want to flavor this. Again, this is our buttered lobster rice. I don't want you to go like, really, he called it buttered lobster rice, and he put like a pat of butter in there. So we're gonna go. This is the full lobster butter experience. All right, so my smaller pan over here. Now, quick explanation. So we're gonna saute the shells in with the aromatics. Why? Reason being is because there's a lot of flavor that I want to extract from the shells. So my earliest memories of working or training in kitchens is where they would make the lobster stock. And if you've ever smelled lobster stock, or if you've ever had lobster bisque or any kind of lobster soup, there's a distinctive sweet smell to lobster that's phenomenal. And from the shells, we're gonna extract pretty much all the flavor for the lobster rice. Now we have a little bit of the tail meat we've chopped up that we'll add. We're actually gonna saute that in butter. However, if you don't wanna dirty another pan, here's the hack for this. So I could, and I'm going to show you, me sauteing the lobster very quickly in a little bit of butter, a little bit of salt, white pepper, and I'll finish with a little bit of lemon juice, and I'll add that to the finished rice and kind of fold it in. However, if it's the point where you're like, holy cow, this is supposed to be a special occasion, I'm freaking out. Kids are screaming, whatever's going on, like you're late for work, it's traffic, whatever it is, and you get home and you don't want to have to separate it. You can do it this way where you're going to saute. So I'm going to throw my lobster shells in here. Now I'm using a little more than the recipe calls for, but I figured may as well. So those are going to go in. My aromatics are going to go in right on top of that. Set these guys out of the way here. And that's all just going to saute. So in order to not have to do a separate pan for this, what you can do is once I start cooking the rice, I'm going to sweat down my aromatics a little bit. I'm going to have see all the, I don't know if you can see that from the top cam there. You can just kind of see it starting to turn color. Like, so that's immediately the heat's going to start to kind of cook those shells and turn them that nice, beautiful pink or red. So I'm going to kind of saute these, but what's happening right now is the lobster shells are perfuming all of my mirepoix. Like, so all that great stuff is going to get this beautiful infused lobster flavor. Again, there's not a ton of lobster meat, and the tail meat that we're going to add is not going to be like every single bite may not have a piece. So the shells are going to ensure that I get absolute lobster flavor throughout the entire thing.
Oh my gosh, it's like the Chips Ahoy. Bet you
Right?
buy a chip, but
What if I don't get a chocolate chip? Well, don't worry about it. You got the
it's
lobster shells in there.
everywhere.
Lobster chip. I'm going to patent that. It's my cookie. It's my new cookie. Lobster chip. All right. So that's going to sweat down. So adding lobster, back to what I was talking to. So once you get the rice in, once you add your water, once it's been cooking, I'm going to show you the cartouche because if you miss that technique, it's fantastic and it's a great technique for braising any kind of meat. And it's also perfect for cooking rice, any kind of rice or any kind of grain. So I would let that cook down. I'd cartouche it. And once the water is about halfway gone, once you can't really see it anymore, I would take the lobster meat and throw it on top underneath the cartouche, kind of spread it out, put it back on and let it cook for another 10 minutes. So that way you're ensured it's going to cook through, but it'll cook really, really gently. Because the last thing you want is like, when you cook lobster meat too much, first of all, you don't want to, something you spend money on like that, you don't want to ruin it and have it be like rubber. Nobody likes chewing on a rubber band. If you've ever been to a restaurant, any kind of Mexican restaurant, you've ever had fajitas and they cut it with the grain instead of against the grain, and you go to chew it, and an hour later you're still chewing it going, that's just the weirdest thing, I can't seem to chew this piece of meat. It's because there's all that tough like fiber. Well, it's the same thing with like a lot of the seafood. If you overcook it, it just gets so, everything's just balled up and tight. So you want it to be nice and tender. All right, this is gonna saute. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna season up some steaks. So I'm using these are our grass-fed, boom, 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 top cam, here we go. Cut a lot of steaks. We have a lot of friends here tonight. Not really, but you know, you guys are here, so there you go. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna use, it's our filet with the smoked salt and thyme butter. So I have the thyme, I have the butter, the smoked salt I'm gonna use. So I love Maldon sea salt. A lot of chefs use Maldon sea salt, which we carry in most stores. I'm not gonna say every store because I know we don't carry everything in every store, but most stores in the spice section, you'll see a section where it's like maybe a 4-foot section of different salts, and there's seasoning salts, there's different Himalayan salts, all that stuff. You'll see the Maldon salt, which is a flake salt. And Charlotte has a great piece of knowledge, I guess you'd say. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I was about to say this really fancy college word, and I was like, don't use that, Scott. You don't even know it. All right, so we're going to go back to, she's going to share a great fact. Maldon is a sea salt. It's an English sea salt, and it's very flaky. And I'll show you, like, this is our smoked, so they make a smoked salt. It's English oak that's smoked really fine. I'm going to put it down so you can see it. So you can see it's flake. I've kind of broken some of this up for my own purposes here, but you can see it has these beautiful flakes. And usually it's a finishing salt, and usually you would put it over your steaks or finish it on your salads. Can you get that really nice crunch of the salt? It's really clean, it's really pure. I'm a big fan of all kinds of different salts. My go-to is always kosher. I think sea salt's great. It's usually minimally processed. But what is special about the Maldon salt? Tell me the fact you were telling me earlier about what sea it comes from.
Oh, so it's from the coastal shores of Essex, England. But it actually, fancy. So it pools together. So they make these pools in the ocean, and then the water, the ocean water, seawater, evaporates slowly, and then they've got these special rakes that they come in and they collect the salt. But it's the way the salt collects at the bottom that makes that beautiful pyramid flake structure, which is really, really beautiful. Incidentally,
it's really unique, yeah.
You can make a flake salt like that at home with kosher salt and water. You would just evaporate it slowly.
Yeah, kind of let it, but you see the crystals are really good. This is just the regular Maldon salt, just the clean, straight Maldon salt. It's really, really great. I love it to finish on things. I'm gonna use the smoked on the steak. Now, for my purposes, I am gonna crush it up. I know those beautiful flakes, but don't worry. We bought those beautiful flakes for a reason, because we're gonna finish our steaks with that salt. So you're gonna notice I'm gonna put a lot of salt on these steaks. Why? Because the fillets I have here are almost 2 inches thick, some of them. And so if I just kind of very sheepishly sprinkled a little salt on there, you're not gonna really taste it throughout the steak. So I wanna make sure. And then once we get to here, I'll just season a few of them here.
Don't forget to check your chocolate.
Check my chocolate, thank you. So
I didn't want to forget.
It's first test.
I
can already see it starting to get a little bit. Can you see this? Rob, can you see this?
I can see it.
Can you see it like starting to it's starting. All right, so there you go. So it's starting to kind of melt a little bit. I'm gonna put it back. I'm gonna let it alone. Again, this is not hot. So the great thing about having this on warm is if the kids are helping, it's not 220 degrees. You're not gonna burn yourself. It's literally at a warm setting, just slowly melting it down. All right, I've got some really pretty caramelization. I'm gonna add my rice in. And I know you're like, this is kind of weird because the rice is getting caught in the shells. Totally fine. That's exactly what we want.
Okay.
It'll eventually all saute down. I'm gonna give it a quick stir. On this aromatic rice, I don't really need to go as crazy as I did like when I was doing the faro. Or if you were doing like a regular basmati rice, I would toast it a little bit further probably. but I don't need to. You see how my shells now are they've all completely turned that beautiful, nice red or orangish red.
Sydney has a question. She asked if she should rinse her rice.
So it's a yes and a no. So it depends on what you're making. So if you're toasting it, I find that when you toast the rice, this is why I don't rinse it, because I know if I'm going to toast it, I'm going to kind of toast some of that. You're kind of like caramelizing some of those starch grains on there, and so you won't need to like really rinse the rice if you're going to give it a nice toasting, because you're going to kind of cook some of that starch into it.
And also some of the oil coats the rice too, so it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So if you're not, and you're going to just make just straight rice like in a rice cooker, I would absolutely 100% always rinse your rice. Just rinse it till the water runs clean, because you get all that starch out. Now I'm going to add the water. Now remember last time I did this, I added my thumb to this. I've got shells in the way now, but I add my thumb to my pot here. I don't recommend you putting your finger in hot water, but I like to do it just to make sure. That was grandma's way, right to the nail, and we're good to go. All right, top's going to go on this. I am going to add a little pinch of salt. I'm going to add our thyme sprigs to this. Let that cook. That is glorious. A couple pads of butter. I'm going to let that go. Whoa, see, that's nice and hot. If you got your hand heated up, that's ready to go. Oh, and I forgot our cartouche.
Oh.
Cartouche goes on top. Why the cartouche, Charlotte? What is a cartouche? Why do I need a cartouche? Stinking cartouche.
Oh, you put me on the spot. So the cartouche helps to keep the water from evaporating, keeps the heat in, and also keeps the top of the rice from getting sort of dry.
Exactly.
Or like if you were doing like a braised like coq au vin or a pot roast, it keeps the top of the exposed portion of the protein.
Exactly. All right, I am pressing the salt and pepper into these steaks really, really forcefully.
Also, it's fun to say, cartouche.
It is. Cartouche, cartouche. All right, a little more of my smoked salt. I'm going to flip these guys over. Again, a little bit more on each side. I don't know why I'm making so much. How did
I do? Did I do all right? Was that a great definition?
It was a fantastic definition. Such a great definition. I don't know if there's ever been a better telling of a definition ever.
So I've got another quick question from one of our viewers. So Lori could not find fresh thyme, and she wants to know how much dried thyme she can use in place.
In place of it?
Great question.
No problem. So typically dry thyme's a little bit stronger than fresh. I know it seems weird because it's so aromatic, fresh thyme, when you're doing it, but I would add, so in this recipe, I think you'd be fine adding about a teaspoon. And if you wanted more, just add I would add a half a teaspoon per to your taste.
Okay.
Does that work?
Start with 1 teaspoon. Sounds good.
So I'm going to show you over here real fast. So as this is coming to a boil, I'm going to turn this up. So the cartouche, like if this is removed, this is just parchment paper, which you can find in H-E-B. There's all this dead space from where the water and shells are to the top of the bolt, the lid here of my pot. There's all this kind of dead space. And so as the water's cooking and everything's evaporating, all this is kind of like the rice that's on top is just going to kind of, not get cooked as well. So putting the cartouche on top is going to have, so now when the steam comes up, it hits the parchment and stays and kind of helps cook everything more evenly. This is also a super useful dish or super useful technique, the cartouche, when you're doing like short ribs, ossobuco, anything like that, where you can dry out something if you're braising it. You want to put a cartouche or some parchment on top of it, and that way it'll help cook without kind of, making it dry, because there's nothing worse than if you've gone ahead and braised like some ossobuco for a really long time, then all of a sudden go, oh, cool, it's completely burned on top because it just got so dry. So it's a great way to do that. I'm going to show you a cartouche. I'm going to start the steaks, and I'm going to show you how to do a cartouche right and wrong, and how to fix the wrong even when it is wrong.
Alice wants to know what temperature you have the rice set to, Chef.
I have it right now. I have it at it's on high, but I want to make sure, because I'm in short supply of time, so I want to make sure I'm going to get it to a boil first, and then I'm going to reduce the heat down, which is almost at a boil. So I'm cooking on a 55,000 BTU stove. If you have a 55,000 BTU stove, fantastic. Why haven't you invited me over? We could cook all this great stuff together on your awesome stove. It's fine. We'll talk about it later. All right, so I want to get my pan hot. If you've already started heating your pan, my cast iron has been heating for the past, I think I've had mine heating for about 45 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and add our steaks here. Now, the filet mignon that I am using, if I was using the ribeye, I would definitely say you don't need a ton of oil in the pan because there's a lot of fat on the ribeye that will render out. The filet is pretty lean, but I don't want to add the oil just straight to the pan. I'm going to add it to the meat, actually, and I'm going to kind of give a little coating on there. So I'm just going to kind of rub it in, because I don't want it to, as soon as it hits that hot pan, it's going to start to smoke, and I want to make sure I have time. I'm just gonna do 2 of these bad boys. I'm gonna pick 2 really nice ones. So because I picked 2 really thick ones, I have my oven preheated. This is another trick. So because these steaks are almost 2 inches thick, they're a little bit thicker, I don't wanna necessarily cook these all on the stove. I can absolutely do that by just controlling my heat and turning it down. But if I wanna kind of keep it, I wanna be able to kind of make it nice and rare, or if you're one of those people that like, hey, you're in a hurry and this is like, I gotta make this date night happen. Like you're just like, cold steaks out of the fridge, you wanna sear them, I would absolutely tell you, sear them just like this, even if they're really cold. But instead of letting them finish on the stovetop, throw them in an oven. Reason being is because by the time the internal temperature of that cold steak is at the temperature you want, the outside's gonna be a hockey puck or a blistered mass that may look like a steak, but it won't taste like a steak. Charred. Yeah, that's
rustic.
It's a rustic word.
Yeah.
So this is gonna go, I'm gonna let this go for a while, and then I'm gonna flip this, and we're gonna add the butter and thyme, and then I'm gonna kind of baste the steak with the butter and thyme.
So if we were gonna finish that in the oven, I would preheat my oven to what,
350.
Chef? 350,
Go 350. That's kind of an industry standard. I'm gonna drain some of my lobster juice out here. All right, I'm gonna also get my, my lobster prepped and kind of ready. I got a couple of tablespoons of butter here. I'm just gonna throw in a pan. Now, because of all this heat, this butter's gonna start to melt. I'm gonna let that go. I'm going to have the lobster meat standing by. Now again, as this is kind of bubbling and cooking, I could absolutely, like I said, add the lobster meat to it once it's kind of the water's coming down, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do it on the side separately because it looks a little prettier. Okay, cartouche, while that's all going.
we wanna see the presentation.
Presentation of the cartouche?
No, the presentation with you sauteing the lobster.
Oh, oh yes, I will show you that. Yes, I will.
And also you called
Looks
it
better.
buttered lobster rice.
I did say buttered
so
lobster
I want to
rice.
see all the butter.
You want to see all the butter?
This is really for my own
You'll
viewing
see
pleasure, Chef, so please.
I'm here I'll be here at the, what is it, we serve at the request of the king, is that what it is, queen?
Yes.
All right, so my molten salt's out of the way. I'm gonna move all this stuff out. I'm gonna get my plates ready to go here. All right, because it is live, anything can happen. So anything could, you know, lights could fall, things could happen, things can catch on fire, you know, that's what we're here for. That's what it's all about. All right, so the cartouche. We're gonna start with the standard. This is a half sheet pan size. I've got 2 pieces of parchment. So parchment silicone injected, which is why it's nice and heat tolerant when you're cooking over heat like that. Hunter, what wine would I be drinking right now?
I would suggest the Josh Lodi Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, get that started out?
Yes,
Okay.
and you said earlier, if you're pressed on time to get that date night started, I recommend starting with the wine.
Absolutely start with the
Open
wine.
that bottle up.
That'll buy you
get
some
it,
time,
yeah.
right? Buy you
Open
some
that
time.
bottle up, get it in the glass, and then set it aside as you're cooking. Enjoy that wine. And Josh Cab is really fantastic. I mean, it has such
kind of an all-around good.
Exactly. And it has like such a great flavor profile of just sweet vanilla, toasted oak, a little
Has it
bit
got
of
a pretty
cedar.
good amount of oak to it?
I'm sorry?
Pretty good amount of oak?
Oh yeah, I would say
Good.
so.
All right, I like
And
that.
you know, a fun
fan.
little fact about Cabernet too, before 1996, no one knew where Cabernet Sauvignon came from.
Really?
Yeah.
They just grew it and didn't know where it came from?
Exactly, for all those years. So it actually dates back to the 17th century in France at a vineyard where Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Franc accidentally interbred. And next thing you know, you have
that was
Cabernet Sauvignon, a super versatile plant that you can grow almost anywhere and produce fantastic wines.
I love it. All right, I'm gonna flip these steaks. You see that beautiful?
Quick question, Chef.
Top. Yes, ma'am.
Did you oil the steak at all before you threw it in the pan?
Yes, I added a little bit of oil, just the top. I don't wanna, once you've,
Both sides or just one?
just one side.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna add a little butter to finish it off, because you really only need, now, the presentation side when you're using cast iron just has a really beautiful crust on it. If your presentation side, if you just pull it too much, if you pull it too fast, or if it's like, oh, I didn't quite get there, then don't worry, you can add a little bit of oil to the pan if you need to. But there's enough kind of fat here that it's okay. There's a little bit of fat that's kind of rendering off, it's fine. When I add the butter, it'll be good. Now, because these are bigger, this is the show. Can you see this? So you see how slowly the meat starts to kind of meet in the middle? That's what we're doing, but that steak is gonna take a little bit longer, which is why we're gonna use the oven to finish it off. Cartouche. So I'll take my half sheet pan of parchment paper, and I'm gonna fold it in half. If you're doing this at home, this is fun.
Okay,
this is fun
hamburger or
origami.
hot dog?
What's
Are
that?
are we folding it hamburger or hot dog?
What?
You've never heard
Hamburger
that?
hot dog?
Are you folding it
Just
like
blew my mind. What are you talking
Did
about?
you go to
Hamburger,
that?
hamburger
Yeah.
goes like together. Like hot dog goes like this, right?
You've never heard that?
I've never heard
It's where
that.
you
I've
fold
never
it.
in my
Oh
life
my
ever heard
gosh.
hamburger hot dog. I thought you were asking if I have a preference. I'm like, oh, probably hamburger. Oh, depends on what kind of
never heard folded.
All right, so
Hunter, have you heard that?
I went to elementary school. I have learned it.
Thank
yeah.
you.
so we fold it in half, right? We fold it in half. We fold it in half again, and on the folded side, you're going to start to make, like if you see it from up top, start to make like a paper airplane. So we're going to make one fold just like this.
Okay.
Press it down. Another fold over to meet that. You see the paper airplane coming into it, and then another fold just like that on that, just like that. Now you can go another one if you want to, but you don't have to. And this is our cartouche. So now you take this, and this is how you do it. Overhead cam will show you. So I'm just going to do it on this pan. You don't need to. The tip of the cartouche should be centered the tip or the center of the pan, and that's where you know to cut your cartouche. So I'll cut my cartouche right here, and I'll show you exactly how this looks on the steak if I was going to braise a steak. So then you open it up, and that would go right over the top.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! All right, so say I did it wrong. No problem. Say it's your first time doing it. And you go, okay.
That's a hamburger fold right there.
Scott, that's a hamburger fold.
That's a
there you go.
hamburger fold.
You hamburger fold this. And then once you hamburger fold it, so say I did it the opposite. So now I have the sealed end up at the top, and I start to make my paper airplane. What's going to happen? Dun, dun, dun. We need like a drum roll. Is there a drum roll? Or some like car chase music? All right, so we're going to fold it back over on itself. I'm going to fold it again onto itself. Let's say I do the same thing. I'm like, great, I know I'm going to cut it right here. Here we go. Now, unfold. You're like, I'm so proud of myself. This is going to be so great. Aw, son of a, you got two sides. Hey, don't worry about it, because guess what? You can still use this, especially over rice. You just put them both on each other just like that. What? And then next time you just cut on the other side. No big deal.
There you go.
It's learning. We're just learning, you know? It's another great tool to have in your culinary toolkit. I know a lot of people do barbecue, or a lot of people like to braise stuff. That cooked fast. Look at that, getting it all in there. Okay, now's the time when I'm going to start to do a little lobster saute here. I should check on my chocolate fondue. You're right, Charlotte. I should check on my chocolate fondue. I'm going to check on my chocolate fondue right now. All right, you see how this is going? All right, in the interest of, how much time do I have left?
You have 17 minutes.
It says I have an hour. I'm good. I'm way good.
You know, I actually have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can I throw a little bit of wine with that steak? And if I did, would I throw it when it's in the pan or in the oven if you're cooking it that way?
You said lime?
Oh, good
No,
question.
wine. Sorry.
Oh, wine. Oh, yeah.
The wine, yeah.
To deglaze, absolutely you can, Hunter. I should do that. You know, if I had a glass of wine,
I know.
when would I
We
be
need,
putting
yeah.
it in?
Next time. We'll do it next
soon
time.
enough. Soon enough, right? All right, so this is going to get started here. Now, because you're watching and because we're doing this together, I'm just going to do this for fun. For funsies. Let's do a little clove of garlic smashed and thrown in the butter just for a little bit of flavor. I'll take it right out. Let's just get a little bit of flavor for our lobster there. Not on the recipe again, but we're just, you know, if we can do it, let's do it. Okay, so the steaks. We're going to add our butter. So I said there was a good amount of butter. At this point, I'm turning the heat off my steaks because I am going to finish it in the actual oven.
In the
You're
cast iron
see that
skillet.
in the cast iron skillet in the oven. So you see my butter here. I'm going to add some thyme. You're going to hear it start to pop just like that.
Ooh.
Come on, right? Let's add a little more butter. All right, I got my little candy spoon here. That's a really hot pan.
I feel like this is a plug for butter. I feel like this whole
It's a plug for
cooking
what?
class should have been the butter cooking class. I'm loving it.
Oh my gosh, the thyme smells so good.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is smelling amazing.
So we're going to do a little bit of butter over the steaks here, baste in a little bit of butter. That doesn't look like it's going to be bad, right? Never. All right, oven to finish. All that beautiful butter. We'll season it with a little bit of our Maldon salt. That goes in.
Oh,
My butter's
Claudia
getting hot.
has a question. She asked.
Who has a question?
Claudia.
Yes,
Torres
Claudia.
has a question. She says, "How do you spell cartouche?"
C-A-R-T-O-U-C-H-E.
Okay, do that slower, please.
C-A-R. I was just trying to see if I could actually do it, and I think I did it.
C-A-R-T-O-U-C-H-E.
Cartouche.
There you go. Yeah.
Obviously, French word.
And now, Claudia, every time you say it, you have to say it with a French accent.
Cartouche. Okay, let me grab a spatula here for my lobster. Again, I'm not going to go crazy. This is just like cooking shrimp. Just let's imagine that. When we're doing it. A little bit of salt. I'm going to use white pepper because I don't want to kind of disturb the beautiful, the hue of the lobster here with a bunch of speckles of the pepper. I'm just going to add a little bit of white pepper. So white pepper is definitely different than normal black pepper. It is a little more kick to it, You can kind of smell, if you were here, you could totally smell the fact it has a little more punch to it. I'm gonna turn that up. I'm gonna turn this off now. Let's check on our rice. Look at that cartouche. Look at that. Come on. Look at that. What? Come on. Those shells, everything. All right, you ready for this? There's butter in there. There's butter in here. Told you, buttered rice. We're doing the butter, butter. Right as it's finishing. So the rice is still kind of thirsty, still kind of drinking in. So now we just added a bunch of butter to the rice, and it's just going to soak up all that butter, all that thyme, all that beautiful lobster flavor. Cartouche's going to go back on it. I'm going to let it sit. I'll add the buttered lobster in just a second, but that is that. All right. Flip our lobster over here.
That rice looks
so see how it's kind of getting almost there? All right. So the fondue. Here we go.
We have a question from Lisa. She wants to know how long she should keep those steaks in her oven.
So it depends on how you like them done.
Okay.
Do you like them like more medium rare, more medium? One of the best things I will tell you is, I know we talk about a lot of chefs, and if you work in a steakhouse, you start cooking a lot of steaks, you get to know what the steaks feel like. I know we talk about like the different ways to kind of feel a steak. Every steak is so different that I hate using that or telling people to use that technique because I don't think it's always accurate. We sell so many great cuts of meat at H-E-B. We have the Wagyu, we have Prime, we have Choice, we have Select, we have all these different cuts, and they're so different that I wouldn't just say, oh yeah, this is always a medium well or medium rare, this is always a well done. It may be, but the fillets I know we have, or those grass-fed fillets, they feel a little bit different than like a Prime or like a Choice does by just a little bit. So if you say that, there's a margin of error. So I always say, get yourself a beautiful probe thermometer, and then when you start to notice like, hey, it looks like it's checked, you start to look at it, you kind of feel it. If it feels like it's still really gushy, like when you push on it and nothing happens, it just stays down, you're not close. Unless you like it like what I would call black and blue, and then you're probably overcooked. Black and blue, is that right?
She says she likes it as rare as possible.
There you go. So I would go for you then, I would stick to like 125-ish to 130 range would be like pretty rare. That's still probably almost like not warm center, probably like just a cool center. Is that how rare you like it? All right, so this is done. I'm gonna leave that like that. Hit it with a little more salt here. I switched over. Normally I use a lot of kosher salt. I've switched over. I was using sea salt. So I've got the sea salt. We're doing a little sea salt this time.
Nice.
Sea salt is good.
It has a fine grain,
how do you eat? Like this is like
ridiculous.
it's like the greatest thing in the world. It's literally it's in a heart package. It like comes at a. I tell you what, man, I love our.
You can take that home with you.
These guys, no, that's got to be for somebody else's special occasion.
I think we need to try to get some Texas-shaped ones.
Seriously, right?
I mean, if we can have a heart, why can't we have a Texas?
Piece of ribeye. All right, you see my mixture here. All right, in interest of saving time. So I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. I've got it turned up just a touch. So you see how it's all starting to kind of come together here. It's kind of forming this, it's a lifeless mass at this point, but eventually you'll see it turns into this beautiful. So at this point, this would be a bad time to introduce any kind of water into this because it will seize up. So keep it as far away from any of the water as you can, just that way it'll be nice and it'll stay nice and creamy, because once you introduce water, it's really, really hard. Usually you have to just throw it all away. All right, here we go. All right, so here we go. In with the, so I'm going to take out, let's do this first. They've served their purpose. Now, this lobster is not done. If you wanted to use this in a stock, you could absolutely reuse this. Just shake out some of the rice. This is really hot, super hot. I should probably be using my tongs for this. Nah, you don't need that, Scott. Yeah. You'll be all right.
Okay.
Give myself a pep talk. All right, we'll give, the lobster comes out. You can take out the thyme now too. Thyme can come out. All those great little things will come out. Really simple. Look at that rice, come on. All of our butter, there'll be some pockets of butter in there. All right, I'm gonna give this a stir. So you can kind of see a little bit of the oil on the bottom, see that? That's why it's also nice to have a nonstick pan when doing rice like that. All right, so beautiful, delicious. Separated kind of grains. There's a lot of butter in that, and we're gonna add a little more. So I get a little more in here. I'm gonna reserve the rest of the butter. I told you it's gonna be a lot of butter. I don't want it to be completely swimming in butter, but if you like the butter that much.
How many pounds of butter have we used this evening?
So I bought 3. I see maybe a pound left, but I may not be done with the butter. I may not be done with it. All right, this is gonna go right here. That is done. Finished, ready to go. Our chocolate almost done. The meat, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna show you our meat here in a second. Let's see if you can see it. Oh yeah, come on. I think I just heard Rob go, ooh, Rob. Crew, come on. You see it?
It's the sizzle cam.
Sizzle cam. I know, I really hoped we could bring back the griddle cam. Charlotte had the griddle cam last time. If you didn't see that, it was a pretty cool experience that our folks here put together, which was really fun. The griddle cam. All right, so like I said, you can rinse these off with all your lobster flavor, all that great lobster flavor, and you could absolutely reuse these in a soup or whatever. So when you make a stock, use all the bones and everything, and you'd make your first stock. Well, the other side of the stock is called a remoillage. So a remoillage is basically the leftover stock where you'd add the bones that have already been cooked down, all the stock, you'd refill it up with water and add it, and that would be like your second stock, kind of. Don't ask me to define what remoillage is. I just know how to make it. It needs to what?
Re-wet.
Did you just Google that?
Nope,
Yes.
Chef.
Yes.
I remember that from a exam I had in the culinary school.
Oh, I love it. The remoillage, to re-wet. All right, so because we have this beautiful lobster rice, how much time do I have, Rob? I still have time? I want something green on the plate. So we have an extra ingredient I'm gonna just do, a shishito pepper. So if you have not had shishito peppers, I'm gonna throw this out there and say I'm a complete spice wimp. So I'm not the pepper guy where I'm like, yeah, give me the ghost pepper, spray bear mace in my mouth. Like, I'm not that guy. So if you do those challenges, I applaud you. But for me, shishitos have great flavor because they have a real nice pepper flavor. They're so easy to prepare, and I'm gonna show you. But they also, like 1 in 5 tends to be a little spicy. Not like super spicy. It's like, imagine like a hungover jalapeno that's just not feeling the heat, not really gonna bring it, but like, I'm still spicy, but it's like not really spicy. Like that's kind of like how that's how a shishito is, I feel like. All right,
a
steaks
lazy
are gonna come
jalapeno.
out.
Basically, a shishito is a lazy jalapeno.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna take our temp here. What did she say she likes her steaks at? What was our friend's name, Claudia?
She said rare.
Rare.
And then she amended her statement to say medium rare.
Medium rare. She meant to say medium rare?
I think.
All right, so you see that? So we're rare. That's 117. Some of those sit. But the good news is that they are, I have.
There's a little they could do a little carryover.
Absolutely they can, and they will, because in this same pan, I'm gonna add a little bit of my butter back to, holy moly. So I'm gonna use this pan and some of the fond that's in here to cook my shishitos. This
Chef,
is gonna
what
go back
is
in the oven.
fond?
Fond, I'm glad you asked that, is the little brown bits. Anytime you've ever cooked like a chicken, if you've ever cooked chicken, if you've ever done anything where you've cooked something in a pan like this, and you have all those leftover bits that kind of burn on the bottom, well, usually you would deglaze the pan to make a pan sauce, and you pull up all those bits. All that stuff is great little proteins, and all that stuff just kind of sticks to the bottom of the pan, and it's delicious. And so in this, I have a combination of some brown butter. I have a little bit of our thyme flavor, the steak flavor, the smoked salt flavor, all that stuff. So I'm gonna add, not that, I'm gonna add a little bit of my oil because I've got a good amount of butter, a little brown butter. I'm gonna kind of stabilize it here with a little bit of oil. And then I'm gonna add the shishitos. And shishitos, I'm gonna go really high heat, really, really fast.
To like blister them?
Blister them, really high heat. Get them blistering. You'll hear them start to blister in a second. So the only thing you need for the shishitos, a little bit of salt and some kind of acid to finish. So once we get these a little bit charred, we're just gonna kind of saute these. Once they start getting a little charred, I'm gonna finish it with a little bit of vinegar, any kind of acid. I have lemon, so I'm gonna use lemon juice.
Could you do blanc de blanc?
Could you?
Hunter.
I definitely think you could.
You absolutely
But I also love a good Prosecco with something spicy.
Oh, there you go.
So we also have our Romeo and Juliet Prosecco out of Italy. Very fitting to the theme of Valentine's Day. You know, come on, it's Romeo and Juliet. But Prosecco's great. I mean, it really is such a fruity, aromatic wine with pretty large bubbles.
Yeah.
So it's perfect pairing with something spicier like the shishito pepper or even like a Thai wing or something like that. It's all good.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of Thai food, don't they always do like, you always do something like that? Like usually a lot of, like, because the
Bubbles?
spice, you want something that
Spicy.
spice
Yeah.
helps with the bubbles.
Hunter and I are gonna have to, when we're allowed
think
to go
so.
back into the world, we should go have a meal together.
By the way,
You're
this,
invited
I
to,
agree.
Tompkins.
this smells, oh, no, thank you. I guess you could come. All right, so you can see my peppers popping out of the pan here. You see how they're starting to get a little blistered? That's all you want to do. Just on a couple sides, just to get them nice and blistered here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the lemon juice to kind of finish it all up. That's going to be my acid to kind of finish deglazing the pan here. and then that'll be done. And then I'm going to cover it with another pan. I'll cover it with a sheet pan, actually, because I use my other pan.
Now, Carrie had a quick question for the Prosecco and spicy quality. She is saying she has a bottle of Cava on hand, and just kind of like a wide answer, I think Cava would be a fantastic pairing as well, because Cava is such a dry bubble.
Should I use champagne in this? Should we use champagne? I'll
we
open
totally
a bottle
can.
right now.
I mean, it might make a mess.
Blanc de Blanc. Can we do it? Can I just open this up?
You can do whatever you want. You're the one cooking.
Because I don't have to use, I'm just going to show you, I don't have to use that at all.
It
is live.
Something's happening. So this is where...
Don't point it at me.
Yeah, it's going to make a foamy mess.
Yeah, don't point
How do you open one of these? I've never opened one of these.
I think Cody
do you
taught
shake it before you open it?
That's it, Chef.
Oh, shake it before you open it. All right.
Ashley Walker says, do it, do it.
Can you imagine? Boom! It's like, uh-oh. We had to shut down production due to a all right, so you can see my, so I'm going to turn this off. Peppers are good to go. I'm going to take off my
cage.
I'm not going to point at anybody.
Your cage, yeah.
Everybody just relax.
Be ready for a little bit of bubbles to come out of that bottle, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we took it out of the fridge a little early.
If I can make no bubbles.
Oh.
I was close.
Now it's a date night.
All right, here we go.
Now it's
Bam.
date night.
All right. Bubble, so I went a little champagne. Heat's off. Steam it up. Those are done. Shishitos are ready to go. My steak's still finishing up.
This whole kitchen is filled with delicious shishito pepper.
Shishito peppered champagne.
That's wonderful.
It's smelling really good,
Before I slip and fall in my non-stick shoes here, I'll swipe up the rest of it. That wasn't bad. I think I only lost about a champagne cup of
a flute.
A flute, thank you.
A flute.
How many ounces in a flute, just so we all on the same
You know, that
page?
is a great question. I would say probably about 4 to 5 ounces.
All right.
Which is the standard wine pour.
Yeah, it's about a standard. Well, standard pours are relative, I think. I feel like that's
they
a relative
make
term.
really big.
Oh,
All
I know.
right.
That's not my standard.
Can you see?
You mean a large juice glass?
It's a normal, like, I don't have a, like I've just got no place to be. What's that typical pour? I just need to be, just want somebody to enable the amount of ounces
32
I can
ounce
have.
big
Oh,
gulp.
there you go. So it's a big gulp, so that's okay. So that makes total sense to me.
I'm just kidding.
All right, so can
Just
you
kidding.
see the chocolate here? Starting to kind of, there's only a couple of things that need to be kind of finally melted down here, but you can kind of see that it's getting to that. And this is the kind of consistency where I want to show you just really quickly. Nothing's really sticking too much to it. If I were to take, say, a potato chip,
Ooh.
and I took my handy little 1 ounce ladle here.
Now, we do have a quick wine pairing with this
Yes.
one as well. The Mia Bella Moscato Rosé. It is just like the petite little bubble carbonation on it, and then it has fresh like strawberries on the palate. So this is perfect with chocolate covered strawberries or any of it, like that chocolate covered Twinkie that I see over there. That would be fantastic.
Hunter, will you also tell me about, because I just want to relive the story through somebody, that they have, this family they're named after their daughter who lives in San Antonio.
Yes.
And they own a winery in Napa and in Italy.
Correct. Yes.
Do you
So
have
this
their
family.
number? Just if
I
was
do
like, I just
actually.
want to reach out
I'm
and,
friends
say
with
I
them
want
on
to-
Facebook. I have their cell phone numbers. They're a great family. They are local to San Antonio. This is where they call home. But they do buy grapes from properties in Italy. Mia is their daughter, so they named this one specifically after her.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, they do have a whole California wine line as well.
Holy cow.
So great local family here in San Antonio. And honestly, I think their stuff is in almost every single H-E-B.
Would they be looking for like a silent partner that has no money, but would be like a silent partner?
Well, I think if they were, I would have already gone over there.
All right, well, probably not the
But
first
I
person to think of
can't.
that. All right, so you see our chocolate here. I'm going to grab our steaks. She wanted hers at medium rare, so we're going to do it tonight. Medium rare. All right, 350. Here we go. Let's do another little test here. I'm going to move this out of the way. All right, our steak, the chocolate, so close, so close. Here we go. A little tip.
What's
So
it
that
reading?
one is medium. Medium. It's like they're both like right around, like just under medium.
We have a question. Barry
Yes.
Bailey wants to know what happened to our lobster shells.
Where's your lobster shells? Oh, I put them in the back over here. I put them in the back. I took them out of the rice. I took them out of the rice. They're resting in the back on a plate ready to use for something else. So all this stuff could go into a pot, all your lobster shells into a pot, water, some aromatics, carrot, celery, onions, a little bit of thyme, some peppercorns, and make yourself a lobster broth out of that would be fantastic. All right, let's plate up. Here we go. That pan was hot. I should have used a pair of tongs.
Oh, did
all right.
you?
He just grabbed it.
I'm all right. I'm good.
Okay.
We're okay. No burns. No burns.
Okay.
We move fast. All right. Lobster rice, shishito, steak. Here we go. Got my plate.
Okay.
I really want to eat that chocolate chip, but I don't want to. That chocolate. It's actually a chocolate. That's a chip, not just a chocolate chip. I know you're thinking like chocolate chip.
A chocolate potato chip.
It's a chocolate potato chip. Thank you. Because I'm having trouble speaking using my words. I'm going to use my spoon. Use this guy. All right, the lobster rice. Again, so a little unconventional, right? If it's a normal Valentine's Day or a normal kind of, steak, surf and turf, you got the steak, you got the lobster rice. You know what? I don't want to use this. This is too big and bulky. I want to put some rice on the bottom here. There's actually, because I added another little lobster tail here, there's actually a little more lobster.
Show us the lobster.
Oh, I'm going to show you the lobster. You just
Okay.
wait. That sounded like a threat. I didn't mean that to sound like a threat. I would just say, I'll show you the lobster. All right, here we go. All right, so the big chunks of lobster here. There's so much lobster in this one.
You know what I really appreciate about this is that typically you see like the surf and turf where it's like a lobster tail and a piece of steak, and it's like, okay, and then they serve with mashed potatoes or whatever. But I think this is a really clever way to make a little bit of lobster go an even longer way if that's what you wanted to do. But it's just a neat like alternative. I think it's really cool. I've never seen this done like this. I'm very, very pleased.
Some beautiful shishito peppers on the side. So earlier, I don't know if I mentioned this, earlier we had some scraps from doing the steak, and I put a little, we happen to have here in our test kitchen a little Urfa Biber chili, which is like a Turkish style chili. It's really, really good, and it's just the right amount of heat. So the peppers and the steak together are really, really nice for that heat. But hang on, let me do a little of this. And I'm gonna grab this with my towel so that I don't burn myself again. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit of this reserved, all this beautiful reserved kind of, this is all that beautiful brown butter from the steak here. What? And then, now I said that Maldon was a finishing salt, so I meant it. So I'm gonna do a little finishing salt on this. I'm not going to use the smoke though. I could use this little smoke. I'm going to use a little bit of our just regular Maldon sea salt. I don't know if you can see the way it kind of just melted when it sat there. All right, chocolate fondue. Here we go. Here it is. Now I don't know how you'd want to do this at home. Here we go.
I'd probably put it in some like in a little cup.
A straw?
Yeah, that could work.
All right, here we go. So I could even add a little more butter if I wanted to get a little more.
Let's see.
Here's what you can do. So it can either go like this.
Oh, that's fancy.
Chocolat fondue. Whoa, I really messed up the sides of that one. Where were you, Charlotte? Where were you on that one?
It's just got long legs, like a Cabernet.
Did you just say it has long legs?
Yes,
That
like a
was
glass
the
of wine.
best.
All right, so I've got
Wine steward humor.
some pretzels.
Ooh, a pretzel.
Can throw in my thing. I've got a Twinkie from 1982. I could stick in there. But also, the best way to do this, honestly, is just to have your favorite kind of treats stacked on a table. These are a lot of our bakery treats from our local H-E-B bakery, the brownie bites, a couple Oreos, of course, some fresh strawberries, a couple more potato chips just on the side, and then it's just taking the chocolate. That's just in itself is a great sound. Do you hear that? That's all that fatty chocolate, like getting swirled by me. All right, here we go.
Yeah, and we did have one last question about what to do if you can't find your wine steward in the store. Because we do only work 9 to 5, 10 to 6 most of the time. You know, we're not there 24/7, unfortunately.
I just start screaming until somebody comes over and addresses the fact that I can't find. Is that usually the way they do it for you guys?
You can do whatever works for you, but I would not do that. So my advice: every cashier has a little green paper on their register. It's called an H-E-B customer card, and they can take your info and get it to us, and we can contact you directly, whether it's your email, cell phone, or any way like that. So feel free to ask anyone in the store, and we'll get a hold of you.
Can you see the chocolate, Rob?
Oh yeah, that's gorgeous.
So it like does so that silky Not broken, not just beautiful chocolate sauce. Good for anything, super, super simple. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with a special occasion. There is so much great stuff that you can get from, number one, your local H-E-B, and there's so many great recipes you can pair with them, with those great ingredients. If you just go to our website, there's a lot of great recipes. You can always go to our website, heb.com/classes, to sign up for the next classes. We got a lot of great fun celebrity chefs coming up in the next month. There's a lot of really cool new classes coming up. We're super grateful that you guys hung out with us all day. You can always rewatch these. You can watch our other episodes you haven't seen. Charlotte, everything from the pies and baking that we did during the holidays, to the charcuterie, to dietitians and wine stewards coming in, which we appreciate you, Hunter. Thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you for all the knowledge, and thank you for what you do every day. But you can always watch those at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/HEB. Check all those great videos out. So much content, so much more. We will see you next time. Thank you so much. We will hang around in the chat to answer any questions. Hunter is still going to hang out, answer some questions, but thank you guys so much for hanging out. I want to eat some chocolate. I don't want the camera to be on though when I do like, I want to do like that, like, you know, like they do in Spain with the wine, where they pour it really high. I want to do that with the chocolate. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.